Alright, I'm going down into the shop here. This is probably like day 4 of work on the swap. We're starting to get that fucking shitty winter weather coming here in Pittsburgh. So I got it in here all covered up. I gotta have it like backed a little bit out because my garage is pretty short. And I had to have enough room for the engine hoist to clear, so I got it backed out a little bit there. Covered up. I'm waiting for the rear main seal to come in still. It's a day behind schedule here, but I did replace all my subframe bushings down in these corners, the Durlins. So all those are replaced. They were a son of a bitch to get out. They were pretty hard. Getting them in was easy. I just pressed them back in with the original bolt, but getting them out was a real pain in the ass. I used a hole saw to drill them, and I used like PB blaster to lubricate the saw while I was drilling. I had to use a really big, really beefy drill because it was like gonna burn out my cordless drill. I'll show you this big fucker. I had to use this drill up underneath there, and that's a wrist breaker if you're not holding on to it. I would recommend getting the tool or making some kind of press to press them out, because drilling them was not really a good fucking plan. It's just what I ended up doing. I got my Durlins all installed there, so then I moved on. Since I'm still waiting for the seal, I started doing all this auxiliary type work. I got my clutch master cylinder installed up underneath there. I'm ready to cut the nipple off of here. It's already ready to go and connect that. It's bolted in. I did that while the engine was out, so I could get down in there and like crouch down. Then I came in the interior and took out the center console first. Removed the shifter, which was kind of a pain in the ass to get out. Removed my automatic pedal and bolted in the clutch assembly here. I lost this clip, or I never got the clip that holds that spring into the clutch, but I was actually able to make a piece of copper. See if you can see it in there. So I took a hacksaw and cut a piece of copper pipe and just like hammered it in there so that it will hold the spring, because the spring needs to like rotate in there. So it doesn't really have any play in it. I got that pretty well attached. The pedals were easy to get in once I took this center steering shaft out. I just unbolted it down there and slid it out of the steering column. I also had to unbolt this guy here and drop everything down. It'll like pull down and give you enough room. And taking that out was so much easier. I read about people taking the brake pedal off and going through a lot of trouble to get the shit out, but taking that steering column out was pretty easy. So the pedals are in, ready to go. I can start pretty much reassembling my interior. I'm going to install the manual shifter here and probably wait to install the cables until the engine is in, because they're pretty rigid and I don't think they're as flexible as the manual or the automatic cable was. The automatic cable was able to bend up out of the way so that I could pull the engine, but these manual cables are a lot stiffer. I got my hole down there. You can see the light coming through for the cables, and basically I'm just waiting on this rear main seal. It is leaking, and a couple little drops coming out the bottom, so I'm gonna replace that seal. I got this kind of prepped and ready to go. I had a bag of parts that had these washers and clips, and I fucking lost it. So I'm gonna have to go to the junkyard and get some clips to hold the cables on, and I need a spring clip for this clutch line, which I don't think I'm gonna have any 5-speed cars in my junkyard, so I'm gonna need to probably go to the dealership for one of these clips, or we better use a paper clip in the meantime until I get something going on. But this is where the clutch plugs into the transmission, and it also has one of those clips on the other end for the slave cylinder. So I gotta get those clips to hold that shit in. Here's my old automatic pedal. That thing's done. See you later. And just keep plugging along on little stuff until I get this rear main seal. I'm making some hardware right now to fabricate this shift boot from an S70, which is round. It's round and it doesn't fit the 850 center console. So I've split it in half here, and I'm making some hardware to mount it up in there. And I'm using this cool tool that I've had that I've never really had an opportunity to use. It's called a nibbler. This is an old Makita. And basically it's like a stainless steel head, and it has a little notch in there, and it just kind of chews away at the plate. Instead of me using a grinder, making a big mess and having to clamp this, I'm just using this nibbler here. So see if I can set this up and get a little shot of me cutting this, because this thing's pretty cool. Hopefully I don't break it. This is a stainless steel plate. It's probably 1/16. Pretty thick stuff. Had to fix the mount for my GoPro. I finally got it fixed so I can use this thing again. Hopefully it doesn't break off while I'm trying to do this. You can see that, I hope. Alright. The nibbler, ladies and gentlemen, brought to you by my uncle, who's always bringing some kind of sweet tools around. So, I asked some guys at work about this because I didn't really know what it did. I knew it was for cutting metal, and they were like, if you have one, either use it or sell it because they're pretty desirable. So I'm using it. Alright, we want to take a second here to talk about the shift boot situation when you're switching over from manual to, or automatic to manual. Some of these sources that I'm reading from are saying that they don't make the hardware to install this boot anymore, that you can't buy it. So you would pretty much have to get it from a junkyard complete. And the automatic center console looks different than the manual center console. This is a manual center console right here, and the opening is like more closed in and smaller, where the opening on my automatic console here is a lot bigger. So I just made some brackets. These are pretty easy, and I think anybody could probably make these. I just went to the factory, Torx screws that are like mounting the cover to the back there. So, and then I took a boot from a S70 and cracked it in half and squeezed it together a little bit because it's too wide to fit between these switches. So it's all underneath, and I had two screws just kind of helping me align stuff, and I got like super glue in between that joint where I cracked it in half. And I cut everything out of the way with a little rotary die grinder here that I'm always using. This frickin' thing is like amazing. You can use it for lots of shit. But anyways, I got this cut out, and I'll flip it over here so you can see. Alright. Got it cut out. It looks pretty tight and trimmed there. No exposed fasteners or anything. So hopefully that'll reach all the gear positions. Because it's going to be a little bit shorter, but I don't think it's going to be a problem. And then I got my shifter with all the original clips to clip the boot up underneath the shift knob. So we're going to be installing that here next. Alright. Finally got the rear main seal in from FCP Euro. And I got the original Volvo one, so there wouldn't be any problems with it. I didn't make a video because it was kind of tense, but I didn't get the installer tool or anything. I just poked a drywall screw into this old seal here, like so. Like a sharp drywall screw. Oop. Anyways, into the side of the seal, I pre-drilled it with a super tiny bit because the seal has like a metal body. So a little pre-drill, and it's very important not to hit the crankshaft, or else you kind of run the risk of ruining your whole engine if you scratch the crank. So I extracted the seal and then lubed up. I cleaned it out first with some carbon choke cleaner, and then lubed it up with some of this stuff that I got when I was doing the turbo. It's like assembly lube. It's real sticky and thick, and it's really good shit. So I smeared it around that, crank journal or whatever the heck it's called, and I just tapped it in there with a screwdriver. And first I just worked it in with my thumbs, and then I used a flathead screwdriver. Where the hell's it at? Really, it was just a dull blade screwdriver, and just put it on each one of these little tiny indentations. There's like one every inch or so around there, and I just kind of fist bumped it in. It's just important that you don't push it back in too far. You just want to notate when you remove it, the depth, how far in and out it is. When I pulled my old seal out, the old seal was laying just flush with this chamfered edge. It's kind of a, let me see if I can, there's a chamfered edge on the edge of that casing, and it was just down in flush with that. So my seal went in nice and easy. I didn't really need an install tool. I'm pretty confident this thing's not going to leak. So now we're going to move to bolting up the clutch and the flywheel and stuff that I got sitting over there. We're going to get that thing bolted up. Some thread locker. Should probably look up the torque of these bolts because I don't want to mess up on that. But yeah, you can almost see the old cylinder peeking through there. Alright, so here we go. This is what I've been waiting for. I got my flywheel bolted on. I got my clutch, pressure plate, all that shit bolted in there. Thread locker on the threads. Torque wrench on the bolts. I don't know where that thing is. My tools are just all piled up. Look at all that shit. Got this garage pretty torn up doing this swap. But get this thing bolted up and then it'll be ready to go in. I'll probably wait till tomorrow morning and lower it down in there. But if I can get it bolted up tonight, I'll be happy.
job. You can do something else. Information technology. I'm just thinking, I'm not a math and science person. No excuses. It's not rocket science. It's my computer career. Click the ad or go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career.
Alright, I got the engine back in on the mounts safely, and I got my shift cables connected and clipped in there with the clips and everything. And I ran the shifter through the gear pattern a couple times just to check, make sure everything felt right. Feels pretty good. I greased up these shafts in here. This is a boot that I salvaged out of the automatic transmission, or I mean a bushing. The automatic transmission bushings are the same size as these manual shift bushings, so that's good to know. You can always get a good one out of an automatic. I still have to get a bolt on that, or a nut on that mount in the back there, but yeah, it's pretty much dropped in there safe and sound, and I begin the process of reconnecting everything. Had a couple real tense moments as I was lowering it down where I accidentally loosened the engine hoist instead of tightening it, and it had like dropped the engine like 3 inches real hard on the oil pump. That little thing sticking out down there is the oil pump with the 2 lines, and it freaking like collided with the frame right here. I thought I snapped it off, but it was really just this little piece of plastic where this thing crashed through there. So that's the only injury. Hopefully we don't leak any oil or anything, but keep our fingers crossed, get this stuff reconnected. Well, folks, that's it. We ripped the motor out, ripped the automatic tranny out, ripped the flywheel or flex plate off, added on our M56 5-speed parts, and installed everything. Now we're done, and it runs and drives. Like, share, subscribe.